I'm Matt.
I'm Shane.
And if you like what you hear, make sure you hit that thumbs up button real hard, and make sure you subscribe to Comic Movie Marks.
And also click that little bell for all of the notifications.
Whee!
Always remember,
if Trailer Trash can do it,
anyone can do it.
Hello and welcome everyone to another Comic Movie Marks video.
Today we are going to be talking about a fantastic article. It came out
revolutionary.
Yes, very revolutionary. It came out actually about a month ago. We've kind of kept this in the can and thought, oh, why not? Why not pull it out of our ass and do a video on it? It is from ComicBookMoive.com, titled, "Is Marvel Studios Really the Only Studio Capable of Making Consistently Good Superhero Movies?" That is way too long of a title.
We made a video a while back about going for the low-hanging fruit. Well, here we are, gentlemen and ladies,
yeah.
For that %, the low-hanging fruit of articles, the easy one to crush and squash. And yeah, we just wanted an easy day. You know, this is like a cheat day. There's the ones we kind of think stuff out a little bit, like kind of, not a lot, kind of. And then there's these ones where we just like look at like, wow, this is amazingly terrible and very poorly put together and just so blinded by false numbers, like these make-believe numbers. So awesome little fun, all basing off of Venom. This thing was written because of Venom.
Exactly. And how well, they, in kind of like a gray subtext, I guess, says, as Venom hits theaters with a 30% Rotten Tomato score and Fox once again delays the troubled Dark Phoenix, we have to ask, is Marvel Studios really the only studio able to make great superhero movies? So that's kind of the catalyst of this whole thing. I want to talk about, real quick, this fucking website, ComicBookMoive.com. They produce some decent articles sometimes, but holy shit. Okay, maybe not. But this fucking website is garbage. As Matt and I were like preparing to record a little bit, I had it on Google Chrome. That is my web browser of choice. I decided to move it over to Microsoft Edge, which was a mistake. I did that because Microsoft Edge has a really cool reading view that I haven't figured out how to utilize on Google Chrome yet. However, because this is one of those fucking clickbait type articles where you have to click next every time, the reading view doesn't even work. So I just said, fuck it. I left it in Microsoft Edge, but there's so many ads that are playing all at the same time. I have a kind of like an antivirus, like computer cleaner that keeps popping up saying shit's getting blocked. I'm like, all right, great. From comicbookmovie.com. That's fantastic.
Well, you see this guy, he talks about Venom hits theaters with 30% of Rotten Tomatoes. You'll see this a lot throughout this article written by Josh Wilding. He only tells you the score. If the score is good or bad, that determines the quality of the movie.
Yeah.
He barely gives any of his own opinions, of his own ideas. It's all about the score and the box office. So this is what we were talking about, that low-hanging fruit one. Is that this is the only numbers that this guy relies on, and not his own opinion whatsoever in this whole article. It is actually quite amazing to see how completely lazy this article really is, and just how pathetic that this guy is a writer for some kind of website, which is a shitty website. Don't get me wrong.
I will retract one of my complaints, because as you were talking, I just realized that there is a view list button. And you click it, and you can read the entire article. He actually mentions that, so thank you, Josh. Now I feel like a moron. So you could just scroll down and listen to the entire thing.
Their ads don't even fit shit. Like The Walking Dead here, it says He Walking Ed.
Right, exactly.
Because the T and the D are cut off.
And I keep getting political ads popping up because, you know,
fuck Tim
tis
Shaw.
the season, and yeah. All right.
I don't even know who that is. Orange County Supervisor? Right. Who the fuck is Tim Shaw?
Anyways, back to the article. This is somewhat of a, I don't know, maybe it's not a lengthy article, but we're gonna summarize it. He starts out by saying two different eras of superhero movies. So he talks about kind of, it's been a tumultuous year for superhero movies with Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool, and then he kind of rolls into it's important to note there are essentially two different eras of superhero movies, before and after 2008. The Dark Knight was a game changer, as was Iron Man, and both movies set the genre on a totally new path. Before this time, there were a lot of great comic book movie adaptations, X-Men, Blade 2, Spider-Man 2, and Batman Begins, but there was also an awful lot of trash. Now, I agree with him. In this little paragraph, maybe not the rest of it, but this specific part, I do think that 2008 was a big year, and that Dark Knight and Iron Man were both huge game changers. However, he kind of proceeds to talk about how Marvel is doing everything right, but most Marvel movies aren't similar to the first Iron Man.
Also, he pretends like pre-Iron Man and pre-Dark Knight was like this terrible time, when really, it's the same amount. You get some shit movies here and there, just like we did after 2008. I mean, there's also some underrated movies, like I still believe the 2005 Constantine with Keanu Reeves is a good movie. It's a solid movie. Blade, obviously, is one of my favorite movies. And of course, there's some weird shit, but then you got the first two Raimi Spider-Man. You got the couple of the X-Men movies. It's not like all of a sudden, like, everything was garbage until 2008. No, there were some solid movies, some good movies that come out. Yes, was Dark Knight and Iron Man kind of that next level shit? Yeah, for the most part. But have we gotten to that next level again? Only very rarely have we gotten to that next level again. So it hasn't really changed too much. Revisionist history. Yeah,
well, and it's funny because as you talked about kind of utilizing Rotten Tomatoes scores to support an argument, he also talks about like, oh, the only movies that came out before 2008 were Ghost Rider, Fantastic Four, Elektra, Catwoman, and X-Men: The Last Stand. They all stunk up the theaters. Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, what about, as Matt said, all the other fantastic movies that came out before then? This is journalism, ladies and gentlemen. Sony just can't get Spider-Man right. The Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 both disappointed at the box office. I think he meant to say handed the wall crawler over to Marvel, that we got the first great Spider-Man movie since 2004. Now Venom is set to poison theaters this weekend with a poison theaters with a 30% Rotten Tomato score and a take on a beloved character, which is pretty much wrong from start to finish.
We have hindsight now, but Venom did very well box office wise, did very well with fans.
Oh yeah.
So it just proves how blind he was to this 30% Rotten Tomatoes, thinking, oh, this is the end all be all. This is gonna prove it right here. The movie's gonna flop because it got a 30% Rotten Tomatoes. When really, in hindsight, now we can say it actually did very well. It broke October box office records, and they're gonna do a sequel, motherfucker.
Totally skewed his point of view going into this movie and basically said, yep, it's pretty much wrong from start to finish. This whole thing is garbage. They're handling Spider-Man wrong, which is hilarious because a high topic of debate is how Marvel has, or the MCU, I should say, has handled Spider-Man very inaccurately, if you, according to the comics and things like that. To say that, oh no, MCU has only done it right, and
he didn't even swing.
Right? Yeah, exactly. There's a lot. There's obviously MJ. There's a whole list of stuff talking about that Spider-Man has in the MCU is not really Spider-Man. God forbid Zack Snyder try to change Superman up a little bit, you know. The next little part, 20th Century Fox in disarray. Over the past decade, Fox has failed to deliver consistently good releases. On the plus side, we've had X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, and 2 Deadpool movies, and Logan. On the bad, just okay side, there's been X-Men Origins, Wolverine, X-Men Apocalypse, Fantastic Four. It's not that bad though, right?
Right.
Then he talks about the DC Universe here of Warner Bros. Goes back to the drawing board. This leads to a lot of speculation. It's been a rough decade for Warner Brothers. Dark Knight Rises was a hit, but not exactly beloved by fans. You know, we might do a video one day. I don't know Shane's exact opinion on this, so that's why we wouldn't do it. But I actually sorely think that The Dark Knight Rises is greatly underappreciated. But it's just kind of my feeling as I get older here, and I watched it recently again. I think it's really underappreciated. I think it really is.
I think that would be worth a video just based on how much we were kind of up in the air on it when we first came out of The Dark Knight Rises. That's, again, another topic for another day. But yes, to answer your question.
That we haven't done 15 other videos on.
Yeah, exactly.
While Green Lantern, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, and Justice League have all disappointed either critically, commercially, or both. In fact, aside from Christopher Nolan wrapping up his trilogy, the studio's true success has been Wonder Woman. So again, he's relying not on his opinion. The movie either disappointed people commercially or critically, or both in this case. Obviously, except for Green Lantern and Justice League, all these movies made more than their money back. Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, all made great profits. They weren't so successful in the so-called Rotten Tomatoes community, so I guess that's where they fall apart. Green Lantern was a shambles in itself. We all know that, and same with Justice League. So this is where that consistent word constantly keeps coming up. And then, of course, he brings up Wonder Woman as their only success because it made the same, it actually made less than Batman versus Superman, but it had a 90+% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's why it's the greatest.
What does Marvel Studios do right? Everything. That's what he said. That's literally in this article.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
Joking aside, my ball sack, George. Or what's your name? Josh.
Jim.
I knew it started.
Joseph.
I knew it started with a J. Joe.
I thought you were gonna say I knew it started with a J. Samsonite.
That'd be Jorge if it started with a J.
Be careful. Don't plug that clip in there.
Oop, no clip. Oop, thought we had a clip. Nope. Okay.
Marvel Studios' track record nearly flawless. Yes, they have some movies weren't exactly masterpiece. Iron Man 2. None of their movies are a masterpiece. What the fuck are you talking about? Iron Man 2 was a mess. Thor: The Dark World was a letdown.
Iron Man 2 out of what? Oh, because I'm sorry, Iron Man 3 broke $1 billion and probably did fantastic on.
You got to remember,
Rotten
this
Tomatoes.
is all based on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
These did not make that much money back, and they had the lowest Rotten Tomato scores. I believe Iron Man 2, Thor: The Dark World, and Incredible Hulk have the lowest Rotten Tomato scores, if I remember right. And that's why those are always everybody's bottom three. It's amazing how that works. A letdown would even argue that Ant-Man and the Wasp was somewhat forgettable. However, their worst movies have still been well received by most critics and succeed financially. Cool.
Wow.
Awesome. Releasing 20 films over the past 10 years, Marvel Studios hasn't produced a single box office flop, which is technically true, or a complete critic disaster, which I guess, if you go by the Rotten Tomato score, is technically true. Not a single other studio can say the same thing, that they're all released significantly less comic book adaptations, meaning they haven't had as many irons in the fire and really have no excuse to drop the ball on repeated occasions the way the others listed here obviously have. It's kind of weird how those movies seem to have done really well critically. And yeah, they do financially, because look what they're pandering to. Fucking even the shittiest kids movie. Like, look at those animations. Like, the shittiest animation movies do well because they're kids movies, and kids movies are always going to make a profit. That's why they turn out those fucking kids movies all the time. Those little animation movies. That's why they're constantly pumping those things out, is to make money, because kids will buy toys. Kids will buy clothes that look like the characters, backpacks, all that shit. That's what they're doing.
That's the fucking point!
So the next part, what does Marvel Studios do wrong? Not a lot. They dropped the ball on a fair few villains over the years and perhaps focus a little too much on humor. A little! But it's hard to fault the studio's Phase 3 output, as they seem to be getting past those bumps in the road. Bad guys like Zemo, Killmonger, and Thanos have washed away the bad taste left by Malekith and the Mandarin, while the humor in Thor Ragnarok saved the Thor franchise. Kevin Feige and his company have found a winning formula that's key, and remarkably, it's showing no signs of going stale. Anticipation for Avengers 4 is through the roof, while Captain Marvel looks like it should be a hit on the same scale as Black Panther. Okay. Now the studio is even expanding its reach to small screen through Disney Play, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going from strength to strength. Moviegoers are showing no sign of souring in this shared world, as they've already have with the new wave of Star Wars movies, and it really does feel as if the studio can do no wrong for most fans. Now, I think this, for me, was one of the bigger parts of this article that really stood out. They have a winning formula, shows no sign of going stale. That's up for debate. That's obviously his opinion. For a lot of us, a lot of their movies are pretty generic. I will say, aside from a couple, mainly the Russo brother films, most films follow, they're just kind of straight and narrow. There is a specific formula to them, and they don't really push the envelope at all. The Russo brothers, you could tell they cater to that formula, but they also try pushing it a little bit more, with Captain America, Winter Soldier, with Civil War, and then even with Infinity War as well. So I think that if you get more of those, maybe people, I don't know, it could go either way. But they will continue to pepper in the Ant-Man and Wasp, the Thor Ragnaroks, and and so on. Maybe even Captain Marvel, that follow that specific formula so that they can keep pumping out these types of movies. But they're completely forgettable for the most part.
A lot of them are. I mean, in Thor Ragnarok, the humor saved the Thor franchise. Like, I get it, it made money, but it's no longer the Thor franchise. Like, why even call it a franchise? It just saved Thor as a character, I guess, in some people's eyes, because you pretty much killed everything involved with the franchise. It's just a joke. It is not a superhero movie to be taken serious at all. At all. It was purely made for slapstick, childish comedy, and that's all it was. The fact that people just relish over it because it does a bunch of stupid humor. If I want to see humor like that, I watch Dumb and Dumber. Like, if I want to see a movie like that, that's Dumb and Dumber, where the story is so background to it all, and the two guys just do dumb shit.
Yep.
But that one was actually funny. That's what a Thor movie is. It is not any way at all constructed as a real serious movie.
Yep. Any Mel Brooks movie, like pretty much any of those where it's just all about the humor, and then you don't really know what the movie is fucking about. Like, oh wait, two guys are traveling where? Doing what? What are they doing? Trying to carry a briefcase? What? Like, it's just a whole bunch of nonsense that goes on. And yeah, as Matt said, most of the MCU characters, maybe with some exceptions, Captain America, I think might be one of them, but most of them, the character will change based on the story. So there's not the character.
They're a plot convenience.
Yeah, exactly. Iron Man, obviously Thor from the first one to the last one are two completely different Thors. And I guess,
and it's not because of development.
Right,
it's because of what the story demanded.
Yeah. They pretty much kind of blend together for the most part, where you're just like, oh, that's an MCU movie. There's no staple of this is done by, Zack Snyder. This is done by Patty Jenkins or David Ayers. Like, they don't have any separation between them. They just kind of blur together. So I guess that's what works for them, and because it continues to work for them, they will not push the envelope anymore.
At the start of this post, I asked if Marvel Studios is the only studio capable of producing consistently good superhero movies. The key word there is consistently, and the evidence speaks for itself, Watson. With not a single critical or commercial disaster across the course of 20 movies, and even Thor, The Dark World, and The Incredible Hulk are better than Venom, Justice League, and X-Men Apocalypse, because the almighty Rotten Tomatoes declared it. Fox's days. Bam, bam, bam. Fox's days are numbered as a studio and will soon become part of Disney. And the X-Men and the Fantastic Four will be rebooted for the MCU. Sony Pictures, meanwhile, may produce the odd hit providing they find the right creative teams, but Venom is not good to start to its live-action Spider-Verse, which it broke box office records, but no one wants to hear that. Warner Bros., meanwhile, is definitely on the right track and could rival Marvel Studios soon enough. Oh, yay. That's actually not good.
No, I was going to say, on the right track because of Justice League? Oh, fuck.
For now, Marvel Studios is the only studio we can rely on to deliver greatness on a consistent basis, motherfucker.
I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
Nice. Well said. Way to summarize that. 2.4 thousand shares? Fuck you guys. That's got to be fake.
Well, when you think about like the millions of people,
yeah,
seems about right.
True. and a lot of it,
and you're one of them.
did I wouldn't share this. I just clicked on it.
Yeah, but you sent it to me to share it.
Oh, true. Fuck. And it's probably all based on the just the title is Marvel Studios really the only studio capable of making consistently good superhero movies.
And of course they are, because they've always been consistently good.
Yeah.
I guess it really depends on, let's go back to reality where box office and Rotten Tomatoes scores doesn't result in the quality of a movie. It's true in some sense, but at the same time, they're not consistent. It depends what you're calling consistent. Is 3 movies in a row good? Is 2 movies in a row good? What's your consistency basis here? Because Marvel Studios technically has stumbled every couple movies with a movie that underperforms compared to the previous ones. Mm-hmm. So again, it's like this give and take. If you go by the ultimate Rotten Tomatoes score, yeah, they're all fresh or whatever. But really, these movies are that's your opinion, even though he doesn't give his opinion at all in this in this fucking article at all. And I would say no studio has consistently put out good movies, because even with the DC universe, Man of Steel, BVS, Ultimate, I mean, technically the theatrical cut is okay, but it took until we got the DVD of the Ultimate cut to actually really embrace what that movie was. And Suicide Squad, which, in my opinion, I don't like Suicide Squad. Then you get Wonder Woman, so you're back up again. And then you get Justice League, back down again. And Aquaman, so we're probably going to go back up again. And then we might be a little bit more steady after that, depending on Shazam and Wonder Woman 84, which is actually delayed now, so this one's not as accurate as it was before. I would say no studio has been consistently good.
Yeah, and if they're doing things right, that's tough to do. If they're taking risks and they're trying things differently, they're not going to pan out one way or another. You know, whether it's critically, I would much prefer DC to push things out a little bit more, try things differently, than get into a comfort zone, which it kind of looks like they might, of, you know, maybe B plus movies where it's kind of, and I don't mean like, oh, that's a grade B movie. I just mean in the grade wise of not like an A plus, holy shit, knocked it out of the park, but just a comfort level of like, yeah, oh, that's a solid movie with Aquaman, Shazam. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of what it seems like they're going to play in. And I think if you look at when Matt and I ranked the MCU movies, that's pretty consistent with, they have a handful of fantastic movies, they have a handful of shit movies, and then a bunch that are just kind of in this gray area. The majority of them are in this gray area. Like, oh, okay, yeah, sounds good. Where's my next one? As Matt said, that's as consistent as anyone's gonna get, and I think they need to start pushing a little bit more and taking a little bit more risks.
So just some fun, some low-hanging fruit for us to pick at and have some fun with. Hopefully come back with something strong. I'm playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption right now, so my time is on that. That's why we don't give a shit right now. I'm beating up feminists in the street that are asking to vote, so it's really fun.
So check it out.
Oh yeah, good times. Get Red Dead Redemption 2 if you are thinking about it. Just get it. Just fucking get it. In case I don't see you.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
But somehow I am not free to vote? Who says that? Look me in the eye and tell me I'm not the equal of any man you ever met.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. You're one of very few to make it to the end.
Yes, thank you very much.
Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Comic Movie Marks Podcast and hit the notification bell. You know, all these fucking YouTube channels say this shit, so I'm going to say it now.
Yes, it's perfect. And if you want to hear our full podcast, you can check out our podcast on iTunes or any other podcast subscription service.
Make sure you subscribe. Thanks again.